Okay, I want to go through this operation on the calculator one more time just to make sure everybody got it, because I want to make sure you all know how to do mixed numbers. So in the numerator, obviously, you know how we got that. It was 300 minus 120. In the denominator, we have to hit the fraction bar twice for mixed numbers. So 3 fraction bar 3 fraction bar 4 minus 1 fraction bar 1 fraction bar 2, and we got 2 and 1/4. Well, you're not going to say, oh man, I was driving down the highway at 180 divided by 2 and 1/4 miles per hour. This needs to be simplified. And again, our calculator can do it. Very easy. You just have to know how to use it. So we type in 180 divided by, and then you do the whole mixed number thing again. 2 fraction bar 1 fraction bar 4. And it gives us 80. Now we have to decide what the y per x is. So we look up here where we wrote this, and it'd be miles per hour. So the average rate of change was 80 miles per hour, which is the average speed of the train. So that wasn't so bad, huh? If you had to do it by hand, ugly. But knowing how to use a calculator makes it much easier. Okay, so next we have tuition at Arizona State Universities. So in the year 2000, tuition was $3,412. In 2010, tuition was $72.31. So this wants to identify the rate of change. So the minute you see that, what you should be saying is, oh, that means I need 2 points. Ms. Norris told us in the first section that dates are always the x. So here's my x, here's my y. Here's my x, here's my y. So you should never get confused about order. Time is x, unless, there might be a rare case when it's not, but 99% of the time is x. So then whatever else is listed there is y. Notice I wrote both my order pairs and I labeled them. So the x is year, because if they want rate of change, don't I need the y per x? Yep. And this is the cost in dollars. So the year, the cost in dollars. So the minute I see rate of change or slope, I go into my formula. And so second y, I'm hiding this from you. I wrote it and then the video stopped. Please tell me it's not going to break. So I had to start the new video. So second y, 72.31 minus the first y, 3,412 over second x, 2010 minus the first x, 2,000. And then when we subtract that, we get 3,819 over 2010 minus 2,000 is 10. And my calculator, so I want you to see this, gave me 3,819 divided by 10. It just gave me this. But when I looked up here, I went cost per year, because it's y per x. So then I'm like, oh, money has to have 2 decimals. So notice how I added in the 0, and it is wrong. Alex will count it wrong, and so will I, if you don't have 2 decimal places on money. Now, if it's a whole number, that's fine, $381. But we would never write $381.9 per year. So make sure you put that 0 in, because your calculator's not going to give it to you. And this again is y per x. So since it's rate of change, and this is positive, that means something's increasing. So the cost of tuition is increasing by $381.90 per year. And that's what they ask us to do next, is write a sentence for what happened or for what the slope means. So we have to use increasing or decreasing pretty much every time we write slope. Sometimes other words make more sense, but if it's positive, you should be using increasing. If the slope's negative, you should be using decreasing. So this time it was positive. So it's Arizona tuition is increasing by $381.90 per year. Okay, one last one. Determine a linear function. So the minute I see linear function or line or equation, I write this. So this could be called a linear function. That function just means use your function notation like they are here. This could be called a linear equation, or it can just be called an equation. Write an equation. So anytime you see words like that, that tells you to write y equals mx plus b. And the function just tells you to use function notation. So they're telling us what y is. So y is c of t. We need to fill in the slope. So what are we going to fill in for slope? Didn't we just find it? 381.90, so $381.90. What's x? Oh, it's always what's in parentheses. So in place of x, I'm going to put t plus b, remember, is the y-intercept, the starting point. So where did tuition start? That would be like year 0. So year 0, wouldn't that be here? That's the first year they gave us. So does everybody agree that's going to be, because it says C represent the cost and T fees T years after 2000. So isn't this going to be year 0? And this would be year 10 because it's T years after 2000. This is 0 years after 2000. So if you look at it, use that information. I want to try and keep these both in the same picture. So this point would turn into 0, 3, 4, 1, 2. If you're using this, T years after 2000. So this is 0 years after 2000. This is 10 years after 2000. So now do you see why the y-intercept, B, is 3, 4, 1, 2? Because B is a y-intercept, which means x is 0. Let's go ahead and write that. Y-intercept, and it's always written as 0, comma b, because x is always 0. So that according to this information, 0 years after 2000, that's going to be my y-intercept. So fill that in. So I have students go, well, why can't that be the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept has to have x 0. This is the one that has x equals 0. And that's my answer. So determine a linear function. I wrote it in function notation. C is the cost. T are the years after 2000. Write your answer in function notation. We did it. Great problem. Really, really, really good problem. I like that one. That's a good one to study. Okay, let's take a look at page 7. We're almost done here. I think we should be able to get this in one more video after this. So explain how to find the slope of a line from its graph. So when we're given a graph, do you guys remember how to do it? Slope is rise over run. And which point do we always start with? The point on the left, right? Start with left hand point. Because remember how I said you always start, just like you read a book, from left to right. So start with the left-hand point. If you go up, it's positive. We always run forward so we don't trip. If you go down, it's negative. We always run forward so you don't trip. So this will always be forward. The rise could be up or down, and that's how we determine the sign. What does the slope of the line represent? Wow, we know a lot of things. Rate of change. The steepness of the line. Those are some, this tells me you know what it means graphically, how steep the line is. Like the more steep it is, the bigger its slope. The flatter it is, the smaller its slope. But this tells me that you understand it. It's just telling me how fast the line is changing, how fast it's going up. So both of those are good. From left to right, a certain line rises. So from left to right, a certain line rises. If the line rises, that means the slope is positive. So rises from left to right, positive. And so that's what they want us to write about here. Rising from left to right, positive slope. Like the picture above. So, well, let's just put our own little visual. I know you have your visuals in your notes, but let's just do it again. And then falling from left to right. That would be a negative slope. And that would look like this. So we had 4 different slopes we learned about in Module 6. We learned positive, negative, 0, and undefined. So we have the positive, rising from left to right. We have the negative, falling from left to right. What about a horizontal line? Can I ski on that? Yeah, but it's 0. Fun. So slope is 0. Vertical line, can I ski on that? No, there's no skiing. So we call that undefined. Make up little tricks like that for things you can't remember and you'll never forget them. Sometimes, people will tell them and you forget them. But if you make ones up that make sense to you, like this is totally, I can picture myself going on a straight skiing and using my poles and hating it, but I can still ski on it. It's just 0 fun. But here, if you went down a sheer cliff like that, dead meat. So we write undefined. There's no skiing there. So whatever works to help you remember, right? So here we're going to practice our step 1 up here, rise over run. So we have find the slope of each line. So the first and most important thing is you have to find 2 places where the line crosses right at, we call this a vertex, a corner. So we can't use this point. I don't know if that's a half. I have no idea. But when it crosses right at a vertex, I know that's a whole. So we see the graph. So we learned in previous sections, then you immediately write rise over run. We always start with the left-hand point as we explained up here. Start with the left-hand point, and we have to pay attention to the markings on the graph. So these are going by 5, these are going by 5. So don't say rise 2, run 1. This is rise 10 and run 5. So 5 and 5 is 10. The run is 5. So 10 over 5,